My name is Morgan Hendricks. I'm 32 years old, and for 7 months, my sister lived in my house, slept in my bed, wore my clothes, and told every neighbor on our street that she was me. She answered to my name. She signed for my packages. She waved from my porch in my favorite sundress and said things like, "Oh, Ryan's still overseas. You know how it is. Ryan is my husband. He was deployed for 14 months. And while he was gone, my family, my parents, my own mother and father, moved my sister into our home like it was a vacant rental. But what they did with his military benefits, what they forged and redirected and hid, that's what turned a family argument into something that could have ended in federal charges." Welcome back to Calm Drama Stories. This is the channel where we share family stories that start with a betrayal and end with a backbone. If you've ever had someone in your family take something that was yours, not just a thing, but your name, your place, your home, stay with me. Drop a comment and be sure to subscribe. Ryan and I bought our house 4 years ago with a VA loan. 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a backyard just big enough for a grill and a lawn chair. It sat in a quiet neighborhood 12 minutes from Fort Liberty, the kind of street where people left their garage doors up during the day and waved whether they knew your name or not. I painted the kitchen walls sage green. Ryan said it looked like a hospital. I told him it looked like home. We weren't rich. We were stable, which in my family made us look rich. I worked as an ER nurse at the county hospital, 12-hour shifts, rotating nights, the kind of schedule that turns your internal clock into a suggestion. Ryan was a staff sergeant, steady and quiet. He called me his compass. I called him my constant. We'd been married 6 years and hadn't had kids yet. We wanted to wait until his next deployment cycle ended. We had a plan. The house was part of that plan. I was the kind of person who helped. That's how my family saw me. The reliable one. When my parents needed their roof patched 2 years earlier, I wrote the check. When my sister Denise needed a security deposit for her apartment, I co-signed the lease. I never said no. It wasn't weakness. It was habit. I grew up thinking that being useful meant being loved, and for a long time, my family let me believe that was true. Ryan used to say, "You carry everyone's bags, Morgan. One day you're going to trip." I told him I had good balance. He was right. I just didn't trip where I expected. Ryan got his deployment orders in February, 14 months overseas. We'd been through shorter rotations before, but 14 months was the longest stretch either of us had faced. He shipped out in March. I drove him to the unit formation, stood in the parking lot with the other spouses, and held it together until his bus pulled away. I cried in my car on the drive home, alone. That's the part nobody tells you about being a military wife. The goodbye is public. The grief is private. I set the house up for his absence the way I set up a tray before a procedure. Methodical. Everything in its place. Auto pay on every bill. Mail forwarding for anything critical. A security camera at the front door, the cheap motion-activated kind. I gave my parents a spare key. "Just check in once a week," I told my mother. "Water the plants. Run the faucets so the pipes don't dry out." Janet, my mom, squeezed my hand and said, "Don't worry about a thing, sweetheart. Your father and I will take care of it." I believed her. Why wouldn't I? They were my parents. It was just a house, just a mailbox, just plants. I had a plan for those 14 months. Work hard, save money, stay busy so the silence didn't eat me alive. Ryan and I talked when we could. Patchy video calls at odd hours, short texts that said everything in a few words. "Miss you." "Same. Stay safe. Always." I didn't ask for much from anyone. I just needed someone to check the mailbox. That's the part that still gets me. Denise is 3 years older than me. Growing up, we were close in the way sisters are when one is the planner and the other is the dreamer. I organized. Denise improvised. By 25, I had a nursing degree and a marriage. Denise had Todd Prescott. Todd was a freelance plumber, good with his hands, bad with his money, charming in the way that works at barbecues but wears thin by the 3rd year of marriage. What I didn't know, what nobody knew until much later, was that Todd had a gambling problem, online sports betting. He'd sit on the couch with his phone after dinner, placing bets on games he didn't even watch. Over 18 months, he lost $22,000. Denise told me they were tight on money. She said Todd was investing in something that didn't pan out. I offered to help. She said, "We're fine. Todd's picking up extra jobs." They weren't fine. Their apartment rent went unpaid. 1 month, then 2, then 3. By the time the eviction notice came, they were already past the point of negotiation. Their landlord filed paperwork in April. I found this out later. Denise didn't call me when they got the notice. She called our mother. That was the first decision that set everything in motion. If she'd called me, I would have helped her find a place. I would have co-signed another lease, covered a deposit. Instead, she called the person who would offer her something I never would have agreed to. She called the person who had my spare key. That was March. By June, Denise and Todd didn't have an apartment anymore. In May, 2 months into Ryan's deployment, I took a locum nursing contract in South Carolina. 6 weeks, ICU rotation, better pay than my home hospital. I'd been doing double shifts since Ryan left, and the locum felt like a way to stay productive while banking extra savings for when he came home. Before I left, I walked through the house one more time, locked every window, set the thermostat to 72, put the camera app on my phone. I drove the spare key over to my parents' place and sat at their kitchen table while my mom poured me coffee I didn't have time to drink. "Just check on things," I said. "The lawn service is on auto. The mail is forwarded to my P.O. box for anything important. All I need is someone to swing by, make sure nothing's leaking, grab any packages." My mom patted my arm. "Go save some lives, Morgan. We've got this." My dad, Ray, sat in his recliner with the TV on. He nodded without looking up. That was Ray, always in the room, never in the conversation. I hugged them both and drove to the airport. I left on a Tuesday morning. My sister moved in on a Thursday night. I didn't know that then. I didn't know it for months. The camera at the front door recorded motion clips, but Denise came in through the garage. Janet had the opener code. She'd watched me punch it in enough times. And the camera, the cheap one I bought at a hardware store, only pointed at the front porch. It captured everything that happened in plain sight. It missed everything that happened through the back. Janet called Ray on a Thursday evening in late June. Denise had been served her final eviction notice. Todd had already packed a bag and gone to stay with a buddy from his plumbing crew. Denise was sitting in her car outside her locked apartment with 2 suitcases and nowhere to go. Janet drove to the apartment complex, loaded the suitcases into her trunk, and drove straight to my house. She punched in the garage code. She walked Denise through my kitchen, past my sage green walls, down the hallway, and into my bedroom. "Just until you figure things out," Janet told her. Ray helped carry the bags. Nobody called me. At first, Denise slept on the couch. She used her own towels, her own shampoo. But within 2 weeks, she was sleeping in my bed, wearing my robe, the one with the embroidered M that Ryan gave me for Christmas, drinking coffee from my mug, the one that said, "World's okayest nurse." She started slow and finished fast. By July, she was answering the door in my sundress. 3 families on our block had moved in after Ryan deployed. They'd never met me. They only knew the woman who waved from the porch and introduced herself as the wife of a deployed soldier. "Hi, I'm Morgan," Denise told the Carters across the street. "My husband's overseas. You know how it is." She told the mail carrier her name was Morgan Hendricks. She told the lawn service the same. She told anyone who asked that she was holding down the fort while her husband served. "I'm the real wife," she told one neighbor at the mailbox, "just holding down the fort while he's away." She said it like it was nothing, like my name was a costume she could put on and take off. I finished my locum contract in mid-July and came back to North Carolina. I didn't go home. The house was being watched by my parents, and I'd signed a short lease on a studio apartment 45 minutes away, near the hospital where I'd picked up a permanent night rotation. It was easier. Shorter commute, less gas, a place that was mine in a way that the empty house didn't feel during deployment. I planned to swing by the house on weekends, but ER shifts stacked up, and weekends turned into rest days I couldn't afford to spend driving. So I called my mom instead. Every week, FaceTime. Every week the same thing. Janet answered from the porch, or her car, or the grocery store, never from inside my house. "Mom, can you show me the kitchen? I want to see if the plants are still alive." "Oh, honey, I'm running errands right now. I'll send you a picture later." The picture never came. I asked again the next week. She sent a photo, and for a second I felt relieved. Then I looked at the calendar on the wall behind the sink. March. The photo was from March. It was July. I called my dad. "Dad, is everything okay with the house?" His voice was flat and careful, like he was reading from a card someone else wrote. "Your mom's handling it, sweetheart." That was all he offered. One deflection dressed up as reassurance, and then silence. I didn't know what was wrong, but I knew something was. The way Janet angled her phone away from the windows, the way Ray deflected, the way every question I asked got swallowed by a vague reassurance. I couldn't leave mid-shift to drive 45 minutes on a hunch. I tried to book a weekend. The ER called me in. I tried again. Double shift. I told myself I was overreacting. I want to pause here for a second. If you've ever trusted someone with your keys, your actual house keys, and later wished you hadn't, you know that sick feeling in your stomach right now. I had it for weeks before I had proof. If this story is hitting close, let me know in the comments. And stay with me, because what I found next changed everything. October. I was eating cereal at my kitchen counter in the studio apartment when the mail came. Most of it was junk, credit card offers, pharmacy flyers. But one envelope was different. It was from the electric company, addressed to my home address, forwarded to my apartment because I'd set up mail forwarding months ago and never canceled it. I opened it expecting a bill in my name. The letter read, "Dear Denise Prescott, your electricity account at," and then my home address, "has been updated per your request." I read it 3 times. I set the bowl down. I called the electric company. The representative confirmed it. The account holder had been changed 2 months prior. Changed by the homeowner. I hung up and called the water company. Same thing. Account transferred to D. Hendricks, the internet provider. Same. My sister had put the utilities in her name. Not in my name. In hers. She wasn't pretending to manage my accounts. She was replacing me on them. I sat on the floor of that apartment with my back against the wall and my phone in my lap. And I didn't cry. I went still, the way I do in the ER when a patient codes, and there's no room for panic. My hands were shaking, but my breathing was even. I opened the camera app on my phone. The front door camera. I hadn't checked it in weeks. The motion alerts had become background noise, and I'd assumed the clips were just my parents checking in. I scrolled back through the footage, and there was Denise, walking out my front door, wearing my sage green sundress, waving at the neighbors, checking my mailbox with her bare hands, smiling. I called my father first. Ray picked up on the second ring. I didn't yell. I spoke the way I speak when I'm telling a family that their father didn't make it through surgery. Flat. Precise. Dad, Denise is living in my house. 10 seconds of nothing. Then, Morgan, your sister needed a place. Talk to your mother. He hung up. Not dramatically. He just ran out of script. I called Janet. She answered like nothing was wrong. Hi, sweetheart. How was your shift? I said. Mom, did you give Denise the keys to my house? The pause told me everything. Then the excuses came, one after another, layered like gauze over a wound that wouldn't stop bleeding. She's just staying there temporarily. She was sleeping in her car, Morgan. You weren't even using the house. She's your sister. What was I supposed to do? Let her be homeless? I let her talk. Then I said, she changed the utilities into her name. She told the neighbors she's me. Silence. She's wearing